Castlevania was an awesome video game series. Whether it be canon or not, the games were always interesting. The atmosphere was dark, the monsters were interesting and scary, the gameplay would always be memorable, and at the same time piss you off. If you ever owned a Game Boy Advance, then you'd probably remember Castlevania Circle of the Moon, one of the first games to come out on the release of the handheld system. When I first received this game as a child, I thought the name was pretty cool, but when I look at it now, I think, what? I don't know, it's just a personal opinion on the name in comparison of the others, like Symphony of the Night or Curse of Darkness. It always had a philosophical ring to it, if not sophisticated. Before you start the game, you put your name down. But apparently this has no change in the protagonist's name, so this is rendered pointless in some aspects. So after dying and being resurrected 700 times, Dracula rips through his papier-mâché coffin and states that he's waited to bask in darkness and rule mankind for the 700th time. Apparently you're Nathan Graves, not Simon Belmont, along with your friend Hughes Baldwin and his father Morris Baldwin. Who fucking cares? The point is, Dracula suns the shit out of you with his back grenades. As you fall 1,000 feet and survive, and then your friend splits up like a dumbass, yeah. You know, even as a kid, I thought that was pretty fucking dumb and cliche. Circle of the Moon follows some of the control schemes as the older Castlevanias, with only two minor differences: spinning the whip and slide kicking. Now you see, this changed a lot of things in Castlevania Circle of the Moon. The way you avoid enemy projectiles, how you kill an enemy, or how you break candles and lanterns. But all in all, keeping the old style of gameplay of slow whipping and the arc weapons. And since this is a new game, you can't expect them to not add anything majorly different from the older Castlevania games. Circle of the Moon introduced a new way to use your magic. The Dual Setup System, or DSS in this case. By collecting cards monsters randomly drop upon defeating them, you'll be able to execute magic-based attacks by combining an action card with an attribute card. There are many things these can do, from upgrading your whip, stats, throwing projectiles, elemental defenses, or summoning a monster. This in turn made playing games exciting rather than repetitive, and gave you an excuse to constantly kill monsters and grind for levels at the same time. It was new and very enjoyable. Getting a new card from a monster and witnessing the power you just unveiled. It was like unwrapping a present you worked for, and you were so excited to obtain it. But when you get it, you find it to be a great asset, or just plain shit. Now, this is just a personal opinion, but what I think most kids those days bought a game like this for was to play something scary. Now, I find that hard to do with the Game Boy Advance unless you do something like this. Yeah, no one wants that. So does this mean Circle of the Moon failed to incorporate a close level of fear that many other Castlevania games have successfully done? Does this mean this game failed to place a dark atmosphere within its background and story? Of course, when you start the game, you don't have that feeling of a scary atmosphere, but as you progress through the game, you feel a sense of helplessness of the higher power that was soon to come, of which you have no idea how strong it is, or how to even get to this entity regardless. You fight all these monsters, only to know that there's something even more great and powerful waiting ahead, and you get this sense of looming evil of an unknown force that one couldn't comprehend, and it was indeed scary. So like many other Castlevania games in the Time series, Circle of the Moon ran off the engine that was most popularly called Metroidvania. Metroidvania, which is also known as Castleroid or Castle Troid, are 2D Castlevania games that bases their gameplay on action-adventure with a few RPG elements to its gameplay. As the name states, this was derived off the game Metroid, a non-linear side-scroller which involved the requirement of obtaining items to proceed to your forward path. The first Castlevania to do this was Castlevania Symphony of the Night. So I know there are people out there who aren't very fond of how Konami added RPG elements to the Castlevania series, spawning from Castlevania II Simon's Quest. But I believe that there are some games that require an RPG element to make a game much more enjoyable. It really all depends on what game it's placed upon, and what type of gameplay is in it. Circle of the Moon, however, did this correctly and more. As I said earlier, in order to advance further in the game, there comes a time where you need to obtain an item to gain abilities. Some were pretty damn good, while others were just questionable, like, why do you need an item to run, or why do you need an item to move a box? I don't know. But this in turn gave boss fights much more reason. fighting a boss who's hard to defeat that rewards you with a new ability to progress through the game and find hidden secrets. But this in turn caused a lot of backtracking. When you reach a new part of the castle, it was super cool and exciting. It had new music, new backgrounds, and it gave you an unease feeling because you didn't know your surroundings or the monsters that lied ahead. So it caused you to be extra careful not to die, and gave you an automatic motivation to find the Kool-Aid Man or finding the next save room. When I first entered the title screen of the game and listened to the music, I thought it was pretty cool but very annoying at the same time. It was fucking ear-piercing but at the same time felt nice and gave it a real melancholic feeling. Disregarding that, to me, the strong point to the newer Castlevania games are how they remaster their music. Try to name a new Castlevania game that didn't remaster either Bloody Tears or Vampire Killer. Come on, I want you to try. I love how the music in every Castlevania is reused and remastered. Not to mention it goes along the dark tone of a lot of other classic music. There's really not much to say about it except to just listen and enjoy. The artwork did have an animated touch to it, and did a great job keeping the dark atmosphere within its colors and backgrounds. Made it look really dark and ominous, especially in the back of the box. Even with Dracula looking like he has ADD, the artwork was very chilling if not scary. The colors really blended well together and give it a warm feeling of evil, like all the other Castlevanias really. The backgrounds on each level was different, but still held to its dark atmosphere, and showed many different forms of art. And this on its own showed the game designer's taste. They put a lot of thought on what would be shown during this era, and the settings of where you were. You don't just want to see brick walls all the time or plain windows. This is imperative to make a game that's as dark as Castlevania successful. Art plays a key element in every Castlevania. It reminds us that we're in a place full of demons and monsters, and that maybe in the background it can tell us something more of the story. A story within the game's story. A story within a movie story, novel story. At first, I always questioned whether the Game Boy Advance was capable of holding the dark atmosphere of Castlevania. But through playing it, I saw how much thought they put in the art, and that in turn really made me appreciate the game and its designs. What I personally think every Castlevania game does is amaze the player with their bosses, or completely disappoint them. Either way, whenever I played a Castlevania game, the boss fights were always something I looked forward to. As a kid, I would always get super stoked when a freakishly looking boss came my way. In this game, however, it had the same boss entrances that Mega Man had. A door that would slowly open and intimidate you on the monster that was to come. It was exciting and felt like an Easter egg of sorts if you ever played the Mega Man series, and in a way served as a purpose to frighten its players a little. The style of the bosses were pretty straightforward. Necromancer raised the dead, Cerberus was just stupid but powerful, Death's disappearance was pretty fucking cool, but... What is that? Why does it even look like that? I will have to say that some of the boss's appearance looked bland and boring. Death, as a pure example, is supposed to be an icon of an end, as his name states, Death. But in this game, he looks like a fucking puppet. And not to mention his second form is intimidating, but easy as hell. I mean, look at how I'm simply throwing crosses and just beating the shit out of him without anything really coming after me. Death was a complete letdown, and was the easiest boss in the entire game. Dracula, as another example, only relates to one of Death's perspectives. His final form was amazing. It was different from the other Castlevanias where he looks like a freakish bat with huge eyes. He actually looked demonic and scary, but he wasn't really hard at all. The only attack you had to worry about were his lasers, and even that was easy to dodge. Now usually when a boss is almost defeated, namely final bosses, you would expect some sort of attack that was hard to dodge or very powerful. Or both. But what he does is simply flash colors and charges at you. Even this was easy to dodge by just simply standing at the edge of the screen and jumping at the right time, or simply doing the super jump. And then all these random bats come about surrounding an eye, which is Dracula, which was pretty symbolic in a way. But I was thinking something along the lines of his eye would appear in the circle of the moon and you would have to attack that. When I first played it, I noticed there was a little circle between the eclipse, and I thought maybe his eye would appear there and you would have to attack that, and that would have been cool, and I look forward to that, but you can only do so much on the Game Boy Advance. The ending to Circle of the Moon felt really fulfilling and very rewarding. How everything changed to a brighter atmosphere and everything felt at peace was just awesome. The music really blended well with its emotion. And then Hughes wraps it up by making a friendly comment towards Nathan. When you beat it, you get a password to enter in the name slot, and this unlocks certain things in the game. When you enter Fireball, for example, and start a new game, your magic raises dramatically and gives you every DSS card there is. There's plenty more than just that, but I'm too lazy to get them all. Overall, Castlevania Circle of the Moon is a great game, and I would highly recommend you to play it. It has high replay value, and is always fun to find secrets everywhere. So go get a Game Boy Advance or download the emulator like everyone else, and go play this game.
Oh, fuck. Watch. See that? Fuck. Oh, you just fucking jump. You can do it. Hold on. Fuck. Yeah, bitch. Oh, no, the HP's right there! Fuck you, buddy. Secret room.
Now see, I never would have guessed that.
What the fuck's up with that face shell? Like, it looks like a face right there. Right there.